Hello and welcome to this week's Supply and Demand Forex Technical Analysis. My name is Leon Rowe and I'm a currency trader and trading coach at trading180.com. And if you're new, welcome to this video, and if you're returning, welcome back. I hope you find all of the information regarding supply and demand that I present each week useful, and you're applying to your trading. And if you do and are having some success with using these zones, please definitely let me know. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, and share with your fellow colleagues. Also, as well, if you want the zones and levels that I'm going to be talking about in each week's video, if you go onto my Tradingview site, do a search for Leon Rowe. If you go to that ticker site and then go to people, search LEONROWE, and what I do is I put all of the weekly analysis up on the Tradingview profile. So also I have a free fundamental analysis course, as I am a fundamental and sentiment trader. And if you do want to know a bit more about fundamental sentiment analysis, free course, again, link is in the description box below, right? Got the videos here, got the fundamental analysis spreadsheet, and click on there and it takes you to a spreadsheet which just gives you my weekly analysis, fundamental analysis on what trades I'm looking, what currencies I'm looking to buy and what I'm looking to sell. So you guys that have been watching me for a while know that I've been bullish on the dollar pretty much all year, right? And bearish on the yen, so it makes it easy for me to just basically buy the dollar and sell the yen, etc., right? And that's basically that's how we pick pairs to buy, depending on obviously fundamental sentiment analysis. These are my resources, and I will be updating this as well today. So yeah, if you want to definitely take a look at that the course, fundamental analysis course, please do, and it should add extra confluence with your trading and really give you kind of like a North Star guiding light to which way you should be buying and selling, right, rather than just the technicals. So on to this week's Forex technical supply and demand analysis, and as we start off every week on the Dow Jones Dollar Index. So Dow Jones Dollar Index is just a measure of the dollar strength against previous but other forex pairs like the yen, euro, and the pound. So we look for the supply and demand zones in here, and then we will trade the dollar pairs if we think there's going to be strength or weakness. Now, last week there was a demand zone right here, right? There was one right here which we came down into and touched the bottom end also of this demand zone, and then we obviously moved a bit higher. So there was some definite dollar strength in this week, in last week's moves. So if you're looking for sell trades, right, selling the dollar, what you'd be looking for is for prices to come a bit higher into any of these two zones before looking at sell trades on obviously the dollar forex crosses. And if you're looking for buy trades, you'd either be waiting for prices to come back down into this area of demand, or you'd be waiting for prices to create a new high, right? Higher highs, higher lows, and then this would create a level of demand, and then you'd be waiting for prices obviously to for price action to turn bullish, right? So that would obviously, you'll be looking for on a dollar yen pair for prices to move slightly lower, right, to a demand zone, and then obviously once prices come down into that demand zone, then look for buy trades. So that's what we're looking for on the Dow Jones Dollar Index as our confluence meter. And moving on to the dollar yen, and the dollar yen, so we have pretty much prices have touched the top end of this demand zone, and the yen is a risk off currency, meaning that when there is a bit of turmoil and uncertainty in the market, the yen does quite well. So if you see the stock market start to sell off, which it has been selling off recently, the yen is probably going to do you know, it can be a beneficiary of, you know, probably some capital flows into, you know, the yen and out of the dollar, right? But we do have dollar interest rate hikes potentially still on the table. There's a high percentage of that happening, and so what we have at the moment is pretty much prices really within this you know, this range of market between, you know, this high and this low, so between there and there at the moment. So if I'm looking to, you know, buy the dollar, what we're looking for is for price to come down into this demand zone, or if you're looking for prices to pretty much sell the yen, what you'd be looking for is prices to really come up into probably around here before looking to get short. Now let's look at this from a supply and demand equation perspective. So supply and demand equation is really just understanding where other traders within, you know, areas of supply and demand are going to be taking profit, and also entering new trades. So for example, we have horizontal, diagonal and dynamic support and resistance. Horizontal are pretty much just support and resistance areas where you have a bit of resistance. So support here, bit of resistance here, bit of support and resistance within here, and some recent support there, right? You have diagonal support, which is basically like just joining higher highs, higher lows, right? You've got another one from there as well. And then you have dynamic, which is the 2150, 100 and 200. So if we look at the 100 and the 200, you can see that there are traders that have been trading the 100 moving average, which is the green lines, right? And then you had, you know, this this bounce. Doesn't mean that necessarily is going to work, but if there was a trade in a lower time frame chart, let's say for example the 4 hour, and you see, you know, some sort of price action, then take the trade if you want to be a buyer of the dollar. If you want to be a seller, obviously be waiting for prices to really come back up into this you know, this supply zone before looking to take the trade to the short side. And again, these levels are actually on the Tradingview charts on my profile. So that's just an example of how to apply the supply and demand order equation, right? And also I have a video in the description box which just basically goes through that kind of training as well. So being a buyer of the dollar, you're probably looking at anywhere around now, probably maybe into this lower level, right? And looking for a long trade. If you're looking for shorts, you're looking for probably something like that, right? And in fact, I think what I'm going to do is there's a level here as well, right? Where you've got resistance, 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 support, support, bit of support there as well. So I think around this 111.6 area, there's going to be some next potential area to look to get long as well. If you're not going to get long here, then down here. So now looking towards the dollar Swiss. Now the dollar Swiss, we've clear that, and what we have as well is got a bit of supply as we've made a lower low into this zone. So if you're looking to be a buyer, then you'd be looking at anywhere probably around now. If you're looking to be a seller, you're looking at that area there to look to get short, or that area there. All right, so let's look at this now again from a supply and demand equation. And what we do have is, if we can come down a bit lower, I'm going to be interested definitely in this area right here. We're touching the 100 and 200 moving averages, well, the 100 anyway, but from a 200 moving average perspective, we've also got horizontal support here as well. So I definitely want to look to establish some long trades within this area, as I know there's going to be other traders as well, support and resistance traders watching that area. So that's around the 0.986 level, right? If you're looking to be a buyer of the Swiss franc, right? You're waiting for price to come up into here, and then you're probably going to see this area here as an area of support and resistance. You've got resistance, resistance, support, resistance, etc., right, in that area. So not only do we have value, but we've got horizontal, and then we also have, I think, some diagonal support and resistance within that area as well. Yeah, bit of diagonal. It's gone all weird. Let me delete that. And like that. Yeah, actually, no, I'll take it off. Matter of fact, I think the horizontal one is probably just enough. But you've got your, let's see where the 21 and the 50 is. Yeah, to 21 and the 50 is above that. So if prices do come up, you've got some horizontal and dynamic support in that, resistance in that area of supply, right? So again, if you don't know which one to do, buy or sell, then this is why you have the fundamental analysis course to tell you which one you really should be buying from a fundamentals perspective. Now moving on to the dollar CAD. And the dollar CAD this week, we had prices kind of spike through this demand zone, right, and then it's come back down. Now what we have, I've got to change these, right, so there's a demand zone right there. As you've made a higher high, put one right here as well. Demand. So now is a decent time to potentially get short if you feel that you want to get short on the dollar and buy the Canadian dollar. There was some good news on Friday regarding, I think it was employment for the Canadian dollar, right? So what you're waiting for is probably anywhere probably from now to look for a potential short. If you are looking for a long trade, then you'd be looking for obviously this wide area here, right? And then obviously we go to look to see if there's any areas within this demand zone where we think there's going to be decent support and resistance, diagonal and horizontal, as well as dynamic. So you can see within this area here, I think will be the best area to potentially buy, right? So you've got quite decent confluence when it comes to dynamic and diagonal support within this area of demand. So that would be the areas there. And again, if you're looking to be a seller, you're looking at probably anywhere now. If you get a bit of a pullback, right, the better. And then looking to get short. But again, just remember that from a fundamental perspective, the dollar really is the king at the moment. So for anyone out there who's looking to counter trend trade, it's not necessarily the highest probability trade that you should be taking, right? Just because we're at a level of supply doesn't mean that we should be selling, if you know what I mean. Again, look towards the fundamental analysis and see if it aligns with strength and weakness. Moving on to the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, and we have, from a supply and demand perspective, I'm going to in fact just get rid of that. I'm going to put a supply zone right there, and if you do want to be a buyer of the New Zealand dollar, now is pretty much the time. If you're looking to be a buyer of the US dollar, there's going to be the best area. And for those of you that are taking the supply and demand course, this isn't typically how we would draw supply and demand zones, and about our odds enhancers. But the reason why I've got it here is because we do have this kind of hard in, hard out movement. We've had 3 days of supply, so there is supply here within this zone. It's not going to be the strongest area of supply, but there is supply nonetheless. And if you do zoom down into something like a 4-hour chart, a lower time frame chart, you can see where obviously this was deemed quite a bargain area for the US dollar, right? An expensive area for the New Zealand dollar, and obviously prices have sold off. So potentially we could see a reaction if prices do come back up here to this supply zone. From a supply and demand equation perspective, right, we have one horizontal support, resistance, recent resistance here as well, right? So they're going to be definitely traders from a technical perspective looking at this area from a horizontal support perspective. And then we also have this trend line as well, right, from here join. So we've got trend line traders looking at this area as well, right, of confluence. You don't necessarily get the dynamic 21 moving averages coming up into this area just yet, but again, if you do want to be a buyer of the New Zealand dollar, then this is pretty much the area. Second area is going to be probably, I would say probably here, and maybe if the moving averages do come up into any of these areas of demand, if you're looking to be a seller, then let's see if you've got any of the 100s and 200s. Yeah, you've got the 200 support as well right here. We've crossed it, come back, so decent buy trade. But again, technically it looks good, but from a fundamental perspective, why do you want to be a buyer of the New Zealand dollar over the US dollar? That's the question you have to ask yourself. It's not always about the technicals, but if you're looking to be a seller, then pretty much this supply zone is going to be the area that you're looking to potentially get short if prices do come back up to this area here. So then moving on to the pound dollar. And the pound dollar, we have, let's get rid of this one here. Pretty much last week we just chopped about between this supply zone, this demand zone, right, and this overall range. So prices are really between this high here and this low, and we're at the lower end. So if you think, when it comes to ranges, if you think that this is a bargain area, this was once a bargain area here, third, fourth time touches really are not the most strongest areas, right? They get, the areas of demand and supply get weaker the more it is touched. But if you do think that the pound is a bargain down here, then now is the time to look for a buy trade. If you think that you're looking to buy the dollar, which I am, then what you're waiting for is for prices to really break this demand zone, create a lower high, right, and then look for price to pull back to what would be a newly created supply zone. So the supply zone would probably be around here, right, and then look for a sell trade. Let's look at this from supply and demand equation perspective. So yeah, pretty much let's look at some dynamic 21s and the 50s going to be above there as well. Yeah, so you haven't got anything really supporting it other than the some horizontal support. Obviously this would have been support, but nothing diagonal wise. Even if we zoom back out, nothing there. Right, so if you are looking to be a buyer, there's not much confluence, not even from a fundamental and sentiment perspective. Obviously the pound going through its Brexit negotiations, and if Theresa May does get the bill through, that could be positive, but doesn't mean that you should necessarily be buying a pound. If it's positive for the pound and the price come up into this area, this is where really you want to be looking to be a seller. Is you've got resistance, support, bit of support there, bit of support, resistance. So up to this maybe 129 round number is where you want to look to potentially get short. Moving on to the pound yen. And the pound yen, we're down into this demand zone right here. We've actually created supply zone right here. I'll draw it from there. In fact, you've got a hidden supply there as well. So If you're looking to be a buyer of the pound, this is where you'll be looking to buy right now. If you're looking to be a buyer of, sorry, the yen, yeah, this is where you'll be looking to look to buy the yen. From a supply and demand order flow perspective, again, I think everything is really to the downside. Let's look at the from a dynamic perspective. Also got, I think you've got some a level here, decent level of support and resistance in that level. So you've got support, resistance, resistance, support, bit of support at the top end, resistance here. So if prices do come up to this area here, you've got the 21s and the 50s around here. Let's see if you've got any of the 100s and 200s in that area. Here you've got the 100s, so you've got decent dynamic and horizontal resistance within this area of supply. And I think personally that the longer this Brexit uncertainty goes on, any pullbacks on this currency pair, you know, is going to be you know, buying opportunities for the yen versus the pound. Then moving on to the euro dollar, and the euro dollar. Delete that. Let's delete this as well. All right. So from a supply and demand perspective, we're really in between this area of supply and demand, right? So probably looking for any sell trades around this area here, and again looking for buy trades probably around here if you're looking to buy the euro. I'm still in this trade from way up here. I think it was a 4-hour candlestick here, so I'm still in. Hasn't stopped me out yet. So hopefully this week, you know, the dollar should strengthen, or can strengthen. If it does, my take profit is going to be just below here. I think it's at the 112.50 level. So still in it. Let's look at this from the supply and demand order equation. Let's go to the daily. So daily time frame chart, again, just above here you got an area of, you know, support, 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 resistance, resistance. So you've probably just come up just up into this area here. All right, if it does come up a bit higher, this is probably where you want to look to be a seller or a buyer of the US dollar. If you're looking to be a buyer of the euro, then you wait for prices to really come down into here before looking to be a buyer, or probably down into the bottom end of this demand zone right here. And let's look at any so we've got the dynamic resistance within this area as well. All right, and then you've got obviously your 100 probably further up here. So at the moment it's decent for a sell trade even right now. Matter of fact, if you go down to the 4-hour, the only problem is that we've touched it fairly a few times. So if you are going to get short on this, you know, just probably reduce your size. If this was a fresher area of supply, then I'd probably be more interested in adding into this trade. But seeing as you touched it a few times, not looking to add in really to this trade here. But if you do want to get short right now, definitely be my guest, as the dollar should strengthen, right? Going back to the daily, and let's move on to the euro yen. Euro yen. Again, we've literally just gone in this sideways range. Being a buyer of the yen, you're going to need prices to obviously move up to here before looking to get short. Buy of the euro, you're looking at obviously demand around here. All right, so you can see we've had support, 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 and we've also got diagonal support as well. If you zoom out a little bit, right, within this area here, and we are reacting from it or to it. So potential buy right now, but again, it just really depends on, you know, risk sentiment. If the stock market is selling off, then the yen is definitely going to be, you know, strengthening, right? And it depends what obviously is happening with Europe. Don't forget Italy's budget as well. I think they're going to have some sort of conference this week, you know, the decision to decide on obviously the Italy budget. So you could see some positivity or negativity when it comes to the euro, right? But from a technical perspective, these are pretty much your areas to look for buy trades. If you're looking for a sell trade, again, it's going to be probably here and maybe the top end of this supply zone as well, and right there. Moving on to the Aussie dollar. I'm in this trade at the moment. We did come up into this area here. All right, I got short with the supply zone. There was, I think the GDP ended up being way below expectations. I think they were expecting 0.6% growth, but ended up being 0.3% growth. So ended up getting in short around here. Now, if you're looking to potentially take profit, now would be a the opportunity to take profit, or one of the opportunities to take profit. Personally, I'm looking to take profit, you know, down into this, you know, 0.76 area just before the lows. I'm expecting probably a pullback at some point, but overall, I'm expecting prices to really, you know, come down to the bottom of this range. But if you are looking to be a buyer here, right, then now is pretty much the time. You might want to wait maybe for a price to come slightly lower, all right, or just now if you get some price action on a lower time frame before looking for a buy trade, maybe take advantage of some short-term profit taking. If you're looking to be a buyer of the US dollar now, unless prices create a lower low and lower high, you're gonna have to wait for prices to really come back up to here if they do, before looking at short trades. So let's look at supply and demand equation, right? So this area here from last week, potential short trade. I didn't take this. Prices did end up gapping higher. The gaps don't show on the Wanda, but they ended up gapping higher. And I saw my opportunity to really kind of get short, you know, in the lead up to the Australian GDP numbers. And we were still within the realm of obviously this supply zone as well. So trades worked out so far. All right, trade doesn't work out until, you know, obviously I take profit. But again, if you are looking to get long or take profit, now is the trouble area, or where traders are probably looking to take profit. If you're looking to buy the Australian dollar right here, again, if you're looking to sell, you have to wait for price to really come back up to this area here, right? Finally, we got the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, and the Aussie yen. I am going to delete some of these, delete, and delete. So you can see prices came up into this area here of supply before turning around from here. It's engulfing candle, it's traded daily, taking off the that demand zone there. Let's delete that as well. If I'm going to be a buyer of the Australian dollar, definitely going to need prices to come down into here. In fact, I'm going to put the supply zone right there. And if prices do come up into this area here, then that's going to be the area where you're looking to buy the Japanese yen based off of risk sentiment. And like I was saying, the stock market's been selling off, so the Japanese yen is going to be a beneficiary of that. Plus the Australian dollar had some negative news regarding GDP growth, so it's not looking good for the Australian dollar, you know, for now. So getting in short probably might be the best move. But again, if you want to be a long trader, that's going to be the area to look to get long in. And let's look at any support and resistance areas. Let's delete this. Delete. Yeah, That's all right. And then I think there's going to be within this top area probably something around here. It's going to be probably the best. I'm going to leave that off for now. More like this one, where you got support and resistance, support and resistance within this area. It's quite a wide zone, to be fair. Right, within that demand zone, support, resistance, resistance, and now should turn to support. But again, just be careful of the risk sentiment and the fundamentals. Right, so that's your first area, and then here is going to be your second area right here. If you're looking to be a buyer, and again, anywhere up here to get short. So that concludes this week's supply and demand Forex technical analysis. If you have any questions, just email me or leave a comment in the section box below. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe and share if you enjoyed the analysis. And yeah, I hope you have a great trading week, and take care.